In the quiet suburbs of a small town, nestled among rows of nearly identical houses, stood the one where I, Olivia, spent my early years. It was a modest two-story with a garden that had seen better days and a mailbox that leaned slightly to the side, like it was tired of standing up straight. I remember the days when Mom was still with us. She was the soul of our home, filling it with laughter and warmth. But after she passed away, everything changed. Dad, a respected doctor, threw himself into his work, leaving my sister, Emily, and me to navigate our grief alone. Emily, 3 years my senior, seemed to handle it better, or maybe she just hid her pain more effectively. Dad's attention, whenever he was home, was always on Emily. She was bright, excelling in school, and it was clear she was his pride and joy. I often felt like a shadow in our home, unnoticed and unimportant. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, a rare occasion when Dad was home early, the difference in his demeanor towards us was stark. "Emily, I heard from your teacher today. She says you're top of your class in biology. I'm so proud of you. You're truly my daughter," he said, a smile lighting up his face for the first time in what seemed like months. "Thanks, Dad," Emily replied, her cheeks flushed with pride. I fiddled with my food, feeling the familiar sting of being left out. "I got an A in English," I mumbled, more to my plate than anyone else. Dad's smile faded as he turned to me. "English? What use is that, Olivia? Why can't you be more like your sister? She's going to be a great doctor one day." His words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt my face burn with shame and embarrassment. It wasn't just that he was disappointed. It was as if he couldn't understand why I couldn't be someone else, someone more like Emily. After dinner, I retreated to my room, the only place I felt some semblance of peace. I could hear Emily and Dad laughing in the living room, and I pressed a pillow over my ears, trying to block out the sound. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but wonder why Dad couldn't see me for who I was. Why was I always the one left in the shadows? The answer eluded me, as it always did, lost in the silence of our house. The chapter continues to explore the dynamics between Olivia, her sister, and their father, delving deeper into the emotional landscape of a young girl trying to find her place in a world that seems to have forgotten her. This sets the foundation for Olivia's journey towards self-discovery and independence. High school was a time when most teenagers were finding themselves, making friends, and enjoying the awkward journey to adulthood. But for me, Olivia, it was a period marked by a deepening sense of invisibility within my own family. As we grew older, Emily's achievements became more pronounced, especially in the eyes of our father. She was not just excelling academically, but also showing a keen interest in following Dad's footsteps into medicine. This seemed to further widen the gap between Dad and me. One evening, during my sophomore year, Emily came home bubbling with excitement. Dad was in the living room, buried in a pile of medical journals. I was curled up in a corner with a book, a habit I had developed to escape my reality. "Guess what, Dad?" Emily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Dad looked up, his eyes lighting up with pride. "That's wonderful, Emily. I knew you had it in you. You're going to make an excellent doctor one day." I watched from my corner, feeling a mix of pride for Emily and a sinking feeling in my stomach. I knew what was coming next. "And what about you, Olivia? What have you done lately?" I closed my book, feeling my heart rate increase. Dad shook his head, barely trying to hide his disdain. "Literature, that's a hobby, Olivia, not a career. Why don't you try to be more like your sister?" The words stung as they always did. I looked down at my book, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. Emily shot me a sympathetic look, but she was quickly drawn back into a conversation with Dad about her symposium. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but feel a growing resentment. It wasn't just towards Dad for his obvious favoritism, but also towards Emily. It wasn't her fault, but she represented everything I was not, and everything Dad wanted me to be. As the days turned into months, this pattern continued. It wasn't that I didn't have my own successes. I was doing well in school, and my literature club was making a real impact in the community. But in Dad's eyes, these accomplishments were trivial compared to the grandeur of a career in medicine. One afternoon, as I sat in the library working on a literature club project, a realization hit me. I didn't need Dad's approval to be proud of my achievements. I was carving my own path, one that was different from Emily's, but no less important. This newfound understanding didn't erase the hurt or the longing for my father's acceptance, but it did give me a sense of purpose. I was more than just Emily's little sister. I was Olivia with my own dreams and aspirations. And that was something worth holding on to. College was a breath of fresh air for me, Olivia. It was my chance to step out from under Emily's shadow and my father's expectations. I chose a college far enough away to give me a sense of independence, but close enough to visit home if I wanted to, though I seldom did. In my second year, I stumbled upon a field that sparked a genuine interest in me: dentistry. It was during a health sciences elective that I realized my fascination with the intricacies of dental care and its impact on overall health. One afternoon, I was in the college library, deeply engrossed in a text about dental anatomy, when my friend, Clara, approached me. Clara had always been more like a sister to me than Emily ever was. "Hey, Olivia, what's got you so captivated?" Claire asked, peering over my shoulder. I looked up, a smile spreading across my face. "It's this course on dentistry. I never realized how complex and interesting it is. It's like a puzzle, understanding each part of the oral cavity and how it affects our health." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Dentistry, huh? That's pretty cool. You always did like solving puzzles." Our conversation was interrupted by a call from my father. My heart sank a little, as it always did when I saw his name on my phone screen. I answered, bracing myself for the usual disappointment in his tone. "Olivia, your sister just got accepted into med school. What are you doing with your life? Have you given any more thought to pursuing a real career, like medicine?" I took a deep breath, feeling a newfound confidence. "Actually, Dad, I've found something I'm really passionate about. I'm thinking of going into dentistry." There was a pause on the other end, and then, "Dentistry? That's not a real doctor, Olivia. Why must you always choose the easy way out?" The words hurt, but I stood my ground. "It's not the easy way out, Dad. It's what I'm interested in. It's what I want to do." He sighed, a sound of resignation rather than understanding. "Well, it's your life. Just don't come running to me when you realize you've made a mistake." As I hung up, Claire put a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Don't listen to him, Olivia. You've got to do what's right for you, not what's right for him." That conversation with my father was a turning point for me. It was the moment I realized that I would never fit into the mold he had set for me, and more importantly, that I didn't have to. I began to immerse myself in my studies with a renewed vigor, determined to excel in a field I had chosen for myself. I spent the rest of my college years balancing academics with practical experiences in dental clinics. The more I learned, the more I knew I had made the right choice. It was a world away from the life my father had envisioned for me, but it was my life, and I was determined to live it on my own terms. As college came to an end, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension about the future. I was stepping into the unknown, but for the first time, it was a path that I had chosen for myself. And that made all the difference. After college, I, Olivia, embarked on the challenging journey of establishing my career in dentistry. The path was fraught with obstacles, but each hurdle only strengthened my resolve. I worked tirelessly, often juggling multiple roles as an intern, a researcher, and a part-time clinician. A few years into my career, my hard work began to pay off. I was offered a partnership at a well-established dental clinic in the city. It was a dream come true, a testament to my dedication and skill. Yet, this triumph was mine alone. I hadn't shared my progress with my father or Emily. I feared their reaction, or worse, their indifference. One evening, I was celebrating this milestone with my close friends at a small, cozy restaurant downtown. Amid the laughter and congratulations, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emily, a rare occurrence. "Hey, Olivia. Dad's asking about what you're doing these days. He's curious if you ever made anything of yourself. What should I tell him?" I stared at the screen, a familiar sting of old wounds surfacing. I typed out a reply, keeping it vague. "Tell him I'm doing fine, just working." As I put my phone away, my friend Mark noticed my change in demeanor. "Everything okay, Olivia?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, it's just family stuff. You know how it is." Mark nodded, understandingly. "You've done an amazing thing, Olivia. Don't let anyone, not even family, make you feel otherwise." His words were comforting, but they couldn't erase the years of feeling overshadowed and undervalued by my family. The following week, I found myself in an upscale dental conference, rubbing shoulders with some of the best in the field. I was presenting a paper I had co-authored on innovative dental prosthetics, a significant achievement in my career. As I walked off the stage to a round of applause, my phone rang. "Olivia, Emily told me you're just working. Why don't you take your career seriously? You know, it's not too late to consider medical school." The call took me aback, especially after the high of my successful presentation. "Dad, I am serious about my career. I'm actually doing very well in dentistry." There was a pause, and then, "Dentistry? That's not a real career. You could have been a doctor like your sister." The words hit hard, but I found strength in my achievements. "Dentistry is a real career, Dad, and I'm good at it. I wish you could see that." He didn't respond, and the line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. It was clear that no matter what I achieved, it would never be enough for him. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on my journey. I had built a successful career, one that I was proud of, but I had done it without the support of my family. It was a bittersweet realization. I decided then to focus on my achievements and the life I had built for myself, rather than seeking validation from those who could not see my worth. The chapter of my unspoken success was just that, mine and unspoken, but it was filled with accomplishments that spoke volumes about who I was and what I was capable of, even if my father couldn't see it. Years had passed since I, Olivia, had chosen to carve my own path in dentistry, leaving behind my father's expectations and the shadow of my sister Emily. My career had flourished, yet the chasm between my family and me had only widened. Communication was sparse, often limited to brief, formal exchanges during holidays or obligatory family gatherings. One such occasion arose, a family dinner at Dad's house, a rare event meant to celebrate Emily's latest achievement in her medical career. I arrived with a mix of reluctance and a faint hope for some semblance of familial connection. The evening began with polite small talk, the kind that skirts around the edges of deeper conversations. Emily shared stories of her residency at a prestigious hospital, each tale met with Dad's beaming pride. Then, as we settled into the main course, Dad turned his attention to me, his tone tinged with a familiar criticism. "So, Olivia, it's been a while since we've heard about your career. How is your little dental practice going?" The room grew tense. Emily glanced at me, a silent plea for peace in her eyes. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "It's going well, Dad. The practice is growing, and we're making a real difference in people's lives." Dad scoffed, his words sharp and cutting. "A real difference? You could have been making a real difference as a doctor, like your sister. Instead, you chose this lesser path." The old wound, always simmering just beneath the surface, began to throb. "Dentistry is not a lesser path, Dad. It's a vital part of healthcare. I've worked hard to build my practice, and I'm proud of what I've achieved." Dad's expression hardened. "Proud? You turned your back on a noble profession for teeth. You've always been the disappointment, Olivia. I just hoped you'd come to your senses eventually." Emily interjected, her voice a mix of concern and frustration. "Dad, that's enough. Olivia's done well for herself." But Dad was unrelenting. "No, Emily. She needs to hear this. She's dishonored our family, and I can't pretend to be proud of her choices." His words struck like a physical blow. I felt a rush of emotions, anger, hurt, and a deep-seated frustration. Standing up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor, I faced him. "Dishonored the family? Because I chose a different career. No, Dad, the only dishonor here is your inability to see and respect your own daughter's choices." The room fell silent. Dad's face reddened, his anger palpable. "If you can't respect my wishes, then you can leave my house. I won't have such disrespect at my table." Without a word, I turned and left, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the tense air. Emily called out, but I didn't stop. The finality of the moment hung heavily around me. Outside, under the cold night sky, I felt a mixture of liberation and deep sadness. The confrontation had been brewing for years, and now it had erupted, leaving a gaping rift between me and my family. As I drove away, the weight of the evening settled in. I had stood up for myself, for my choices, but at what cost? The pain of my father's rejection was sharp, yet there was a sense of relief too. I had finally spoken my truth, and in doing so, I had freed myself from the burden of his expectations. The chapter closed on a bittersweet note, marking the end of my struggle for my father's approval and the beginning of a new chapter, one where I could fully embrace my own identity, independent of my family's shadow. The confrontation at my father's house left me, Olivia, in a state of emotional turmoil. The drive home was a blur, my mind replaying the harsh words and the final, painful severance of my familial ties. The house I returned to was quiet, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions raging within me. The next morning, I was scheduled to attend an important dental conference. My mind, however, was far from the intricacies of dentistry. As I prepared, my thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was my chauffeur, a service I had indulged in since my practice had become successful. "Good morning, Mrs. Olivia. The car is ready where," he said with a polite smile. I nodded, offering a faint smile in return. The luxury car, a symbol of my hard-earned success, suddenly felt like an empty consolation. The conference was a whirlwind of presentations and networking, but my heart wasn't in it. My encounter with my father had left a deep scar, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of rejection. As the day drew to a close, I decided to make a stop at my parents' house. A part of me yearned for closure, for some sign of reconciliation. I arrived to find my father in the garden, tending to the flowers that had been my mother's pride. He looked up, surprise etched on his face. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" I took a deep breath, the words flowing out. "I came to say that I'm sorry for last night. But I'm not sorry for my choices. I've built a successful practice, Dad. I help people every day, and I'm good at what I do." He put down his gardening tools, wiping his hands on his apron. "I saw your car, Olivia. How did you afford something like that? You said your practice was just doing fine." The question stung, but I stood my ground. Yes, it's more than fine. I've worked hard and I've made a good life for myself. A life I chose, not the one you wanted for me. Dad's expression softened slightly. "I just wanted the best for you, Olivia. I thought following in my footsteps was that best." "But it wasn't, Dad. It was never what I wanted. I found my own way, and I'm happy with it. I just wish you could be happy for me too." He looked away, a mix of emotions crossing his face. "I don't understand your choices, Olivia. But maybe I don't have to. It's your life, after all." It wasn't a complete acceptance, but it was a start. I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "Thank you, Dad. That's all I ever wanted." As I drove away, I felt a sense of closure. The confrontation and this subsequent conversation marked a turning point in my relationship with my father. It was a tentative step towards understanding and, perhaps, acceptance. The chapter ended with me looking towards the future, ready to embrace whatever came my way. The path I had chosen wasn't easy, but it was mine, and for the first time, I felt truly at peace with it. The resolution with my father marked a pivotal change in my life. The past, with its shadows of neglect and misunderstanding, had given way to a present filled with possibilities and a future unburdened by the need for approval. I, Olivia, stood at the threshold of a new chapter, one where my identity and achievements were defined by my own standards. As I settled into this newfound sense of self, my dental practice continued to thrive. I had built a reputation not just for excellence in dentistry, but also for a compassionate approach to patient care. My clinic became a place where people didn't just come for dental work, but for the warmth and understanding we offered. One day, as I was closing up the clinic, my receptionist, Anna, approached me. "Olivia, there's someone here to see you, says it's important." Curious, I walked to the lobby and was surprised to see Emily standing there, looking a bit hesitant. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I asked, genuinely surprised. She took a deep breath. "I wanted to talk to you, Olivia. After what happened with Dad, I realized I haven't been the sister I should have been to you." Her words were unexpected, and I motioned for her to sit down in the waiting area. "It's been a long time since we really talked, Emily." "I know, and I'm sorry. I got so caught up in Dad's expectations and my career. I never stopped to see how amazing you were doing on your own. This place," she gestured around the clinic, "it's incredible. Olivia." I nodded, a mix of emotions swirling within me. "Thank you, Emily. It wasn't easy, feeling like I was always in your shadow, always failing to meet Dad's expectations." "I know, and I wish I had seen it sooner, but I'm here now, Olivia. I want to be a part of your life if you'll let me." Her words were a balm to the years of distance and misunderstandings. "I'd like that, Emily. I really would." From that day forward, Emily and I began rebuilding our relationship. It was a process, with its ups and downs, but it was grounded in a newfound respect and understanding for each other's choices. As my personal life found its harmony, my professional life soared to new heights. I was invited to speak at dental conferences, sharing my insights and innovations in the field. My practice expanded, and I began mentoring young dentists, passing on the lessons I had learned on my journey. One evening, I found myself at a dinner with some of the leading figures in dentistry. I was sharing a table with Dr. Helen Jacobs, a renowned dental surgeon I had always admired. "Olivia, I've been following your work," Dr. Jacobs said, her eyes reflecting genuine respect. "You've brought something special to this field. Your approach to patient care is exemplary." I felt a surge of pride. "Thank you, Dr. Jacobs." That means a lot coming from you. I've always believed that dentistry is more than just treating teeth. It's about treating people. She nodded, and that's what sets you apart. Keep doing what you're doing, Olivia. You're making a real difference. The evening ended with a sense of accomplishment and a reaffirmation of my choices. I had not only found my place in the world of dentistry, but had also carved a niche that was uniquely mine. This final chapter, New Beginnings, was about more than just professional success. It was about personal growth, healing familial relationships, and embracing life on my own terms. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had led me to a place of contentment and fulfillment. As I looked ahead, I was filled with optimism and a deep sense of gratitude for the path I had chosen. My story was a testament to the fact that sometimes the road less traveled not only makes all the difference, but also leads to the most beautiful destinations.